And welcome to week 4 of Proving Grounds coverage, where we find ourselves kicking off the week in the upper bracket finals. Best of fives are ahead of us, and I will be your host for the day. You can call me Kangas. I am joined by the lovable Joshi. How's it going, Joshi?
Woo! That's the first time anybody's ever called me that. Thank you, Kangas.
Well,
Damn.
hey, it's true. It's true. And the incredibly handsome and based Rafa.
That's the first time anybody's ever called him that.
Well,
Wow,
okay,
Kangas.
that's
All
a
right,
lie.
you
Twitch
dude.
chat goes nuts on it. And then, joining us, very special guest that we are happy to have and privileged to have on the broadcast. He was a pro player in OS, turned to coaching for orgs like Golden Guardians. Also the most tatted member of the desk right now. We got Swiper. How's it going, Swiper?
Hey man, it's good to be here, to be honest. I've watched you guys a few times now, and I'm a fan. So it's nice to be on board.
I like it. Wait, we have fans. You hear that, Twitch chat? Okay? If Swiper enjoys the show, and then maybe we're not too cringe. Maybe we're towing the line then.
Yeah, we can toe the line a bit more. We can still go further is what I'm hearing.
Okay,
True.
you know what? Actually, there's always more. There's always more we can do. But of course, everybody, this is the desk we'll have today. We got a really fun match ahead of us, but we want to start off the show reminding everybody that Most Valuable Prospects awards are starting to come in. Today, we'll be unveiling our first in the top 5. And a reminder for what Most Valuable Prospect is. Not player, no Rafa. I see you. You're reacting to it. It is not the best player right now in all of Academy. It is the Most Valuable Prospect, somebody that we think within 2 years, if they're signed to an LCS team, will elevate the team to that status. But we also got to talk to the players ahead of time to get their thoughts on who they think is most deserving. So let's take a look.
Lucio, I can't choose one. Maybe I'm biased, but I feel like I have to choose Darshan.
I thought Insanity has been really good.
I think definitely Insanity should be up there. And I'm not just saying that because he's right here.
Will's been playing really well.
I'm gonna have to say Busio.
I think I'd probably go with Busio.
I think it should be Busio maybe. I think every time I see him, he's like kind of smurfing.
It would be TL Armao. So I would probably say I think Armao was actually playing really well.
I think Armao and Tenacity, I think if those players weren't on the teams, I think that'd be much worse.
For me, the most valuable prospect, I would say, in the academy would be Armao.
Probably Ayla or Arma.
I think there's a lot of options. On our team, I could see Ayla getting it for sure. Jan could potentially get it.
I like Jan. Jan, he's good.
I think probably either Tenacity or Jan. I think Tenacity's been a big reason why his team has been winning his games, just because of the absolute presence that he brings in the top lane. But then I also think Jan has been performing out of his mind this split. I think that guy's for sure going to be playing LCS next year, and it's not even going to be close.
Should probably be Ayla, because I'm sure everyone thinks Ayla's good. It should be Ayla.
Kind of breaks my heart to hear some of these names come through and know that we can only give out a certain number of awards, a certain number of honorable mentions throughout the course of the next week. And we have to remind everybody that it is a regular season award, right? We have so many players who have played so well in Proving Grounds. And if that's what we had seen, if we had seen the amount of growth in the regular season, I definitely think several of the names that they've mentioned would absolutely be on the list, but we still have so many talented players that we think have so much room to grow, several of whom are already LCS ready, and it's only a matter of time before they elevate themselves to maybe getting as many MVPs as Blabber.
Ooh. I also love that we got to hear from the players themselves this split, because last split, again, it's the conversation that we have as a broadcast. Kelsey is involved as well. We all put our votes in, and then we give points based on who we have in our top 5, and then that's kind of how we come to the number 1 decision. But it's cool to hear the players and who they think, because they're obviously playing against them constantly. But with that said, it's time to unveil the first member, number 5 on our list. And we actually had a very handsome member of the broadcast give the breakdown for this one. So let's take a look. Kicking off our top 5 most valuable prospect list for summer of 2022 Academy regular season, we got Team Liquid Honda, Jan. Remember this clip that got front page of Reddit when Zeri first came out? Yeah, that was Jan. Turns out, he's really good at this champ. Looking back, Jan's performance this split has been silently underrated. He is an absolute killer in teamfights, and his ability to read a situation and know how to maximize his damage output makes him an ace up Team Liquid's sleeve.
Let's start by taking a look at Jan's accolades. He won Scouting Grounds in 2020, and in all 4 Academy splits, he has not finished out of the top 4. To top that off, in the last 2 Proving Grounds, Jan finished 2nd and 1st place. The kid's kinda cracked. It can be hard to notice individual performance of an AD carry when they're laning with somebody of Ayla's caliber, but Jan managed to stand out regardless as one of, if not the premier AD carry of the split. He's come a long way since the days of 100 Thieves Next, and yeah, he still has a long way to go, but where he is right now would elevate any team that he's on, Academy or LCS. So, for those reasons, congratulations to Jan for being on our top 5 most valuable prospect list.
So there you have it, Jan number 5, and it's crazy to hear that a lot of the pros agreed and actually would have ranked him as their number 1 when we heard earlier them talking about it. Jan's name came up a lot, Joshi.
Yeah, and Jan's definitely this player that if you look at the most valuable prospect, we look in so much at growth, how much more we think this player has to grow, how much they've shown us, and Jan was one of the players that for me, if you looked at him in spring, we already knew he was pretty good, but the amount of aggression that he's developed, the willingness to go forward and look for these mechanical outplays that he wasn't doing in spring and is now doing in summer really elevated not only his play individually, but made Team Liquid even more dominant than they were in spring. And for that reason, it feels like kind of a no-brainer that we want to have Jan as one of our top prospects going into 2023.
Yeah, when you first look at Jan coming into the competitive scene back in 2020 when he filled in for Otto on the Class of 100 Thieves Next, he was well known to be, you know, the marksman that says like, hey, we're just going to give you Ezreal or we're going to give you Ashe. Make sure you're just keeping them at a long distance range. You'll contribute in team fights, but he significantly developed his laning phase presence. He looks for more all-in kills and threats with Ayla that has made them a far more threatening bot lane duo as early as 1 minute and 30 seconds when laning phase officially starts. And I think that growth has really allowed him to become not only a more dominant force throughout the game at all points of the game, but also a more valuable player as well.
Yeah, it felt like there was a year in the beginning of his career where he got 2nd in pretty much everything, like the Scouting Ground circuit finals, then even Academy Proving Grounds, things like that. It was just second place, and then finally picking up 1st place in spring was huge for him. Swiper, I just want to get your thoughts, though, on a player like Jan. What's your impression of him?
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing that comes to mind straight away when I think of him as a player is, like, his team fighting, for sure. It's just, like, he always plays on the line, like, of like, over-committing and like, staying like, too far back behind his carries. I think that, like, his uptime especially is really good, especially in the games where he's, like, had rough early games. I think, like, his damage percent is, like, really nice, and it's, like, what you want from an AD carry. So, I mean, he has, like, all the good qualities like an AD carry needs, I think.
And like Rafa had been saying, room to grow. We still think that he's got a higher ceiling than what he's shown so far. So that is number 5 for our most valuable prospect list. We will be unveiling the rest throughout this week, and then unveiling number 1 going into next week when we're live in the studio. But if you're confused and wondering, hey, what's going on? What's the most valuable prospect? What's Proving Grounds? Why are we on the LCS channel? Well, hey, let me catch you up, everybody. Proving Grounds is the culmination of the entire summer split between Academy regular season that seeds them into the tournament up against the top 10 amateur teams that all earn their seeding based on qualifiers played throughout the summer. This is the tournament where all the scouts are looking, all the coaches are looking, seeing who the upcoming talent are outside of maybe solo queue or other regions, but anyone in NA competing in Tier 2 League of Legends, this is where it comes to a head. And we can actually take a look at the lower bracket to catch everybody up on the teams remaining still in the tournament, because we are getting towards the end of Proving Grounds, everybody. Rafa, right off the bat here in the lower bracket, we got some big names.
Yeah, Team Liquid Honda, for those that missed out on last week's match between Team Liquid Honda Academy and Dignitas Academy, a lot of us on the desk had projected Team Liquid to take that series against Dignitas, knowing that Team Liquid were #1 seed in the regular season, and they are the current Proving Grounds champions after clinching the title in spring in a best-of-5 against 100 Thieves Academy. The fact that they are in the bottom bracket and the lower bracket not only speaks and attests to the strength of Dignitas Academy's current form, but also spells not the easiest path to the top 4 for someone like Immortals Progressive Academy, who has been taking a very long road ever since the 5th round.
They ran through a bunch of amateur teams, then CLG Academy. Now they're up against Team Liquid Honda to get into their coveted 4th place finish, which they have consistently gotten. But let's take a look at the upper bracket and catch up on what's going on there. Also, quick note though, AoE Ginger Turmeric is the final remaining amateur team in the tournament, also in the lower bracket. Exciting to watch their journey. But Joshi, talk to me about the upper bracket here. Did things play out how you expected? Because we did the bracket, the August Absurdity brackets at the beginning of the tournament. How's yours looking?
Not very good, King. We got to be real here. I think 90% of people probably had 100 Thieves Academy taking down AoE Ginger Turmeric in the first round of the winners or the upper bracket, and I was expecting A14, our upper semifinals, to be a tightly contested best of 3 going up between Cloud9 and 100 Thieves Academy. But instead, it was AoE GT that made their way there, and of course, Team Liquid. I'll be honest, my favorite team not living up to the very high standards both I and they have set for themselves, and instead it's been Dignitas coming in at the last moment, coming in with all kinds of different players from the amateur scene to the LCS roster, putting them all together over the course of less than a month, and now they find themselves in the upper bracket finals going up against one of the most storied rosters we had in Academy.
And let's take a look at how they did it, because those the upper bracket semis that they played were bangers, right, Rafa? 3 games each, insane stuff.
You got the top overhead view of Perry's Volibear just completely dunking on Team Liquid Academy. But then the real story was about Insanity. This guy who formerly playing on Team Liquid Academy back in 2018 and 19, correct me if I'm correct, Josh, here?
Sounds right.
All right. Sounds right.
I believe it's 2020, but sure, yeah.
And now, Insanity is no stranger to experience on the big stage. Has played in LCS for Immortals, and then decided, had to take a trip back to amateur, playing on 100 Thieves next after weighing his options for the 2021 competitive season. But he made a big splash over there, and then in 2022, when after the spring success of 100 Thieves next, he got picked up by Dignitas Academy, replacing Darkwings, and he has been nothing short of exceptional for levitating this roster.
And we'll talk more about Dignitas Academy once we get into the matchup itself, but we also want to highlight Cloud9 Academy, because they have had a pretty big glow up here, Joshi, in the second half of the year. I mean, they were always kind of in that conversation during the summer towards the top, but this is their first time in upper bracket finals since 2021 Spring Proving Grounds. It's been over a year since they've made it this far into the tournament in such fashion.
It feels as though they're coming together at the right time, right? We already knew that Cloud9 has looked at their Academy roster for a long time as a roster where they want to be able to pull up any of their players and plug them into LCS at the drop of a hat. This is a roster that we know has the opportunity to continue doing that, but they had a slump in the second round robin. It felt as though they hadn't figured out how to play together, or everything that they were working for was kind of falling apart. But now that we're into Proving Grounds once again, we get to see exactly why they picked up all the players that they did, the synergy that's coming through, and how much just raw skill still exists on this roster.
That's a little bit of a history lesson for anybody that didn't know from back in last year. But if you want to catch up on current history, the best way to do it, everybody, is by following a certain Twitter account, Path to LCS. Make sure that you're following that for all of your updates on everything Academy Amateur Proving Grounds, as well as all the silly content that we like to make. Episode 3 of the summer movie will be coming out soon, okay? Joshi, you got your costume now.
I'm ready.
So
I'm ready to go.
We can film that, finally. It's also just I've been lazy and have not gotten around to that. Joshi's had the costume for a couple days. I'm not going to throw you under the bus on that one. But with that said, let's get into our first match, everybody. Cloud9 Academy versus Dignitas Academy, or our only match rather of the day. I'm so used to us having 2 matches, but a best of 5 ahead of us here.
Now.
We're in the best of 5s, Rafa. We only get the 1, and I'm hoping it goes all 5 games, and I'm honestly expecting it to as we look at the rosters. Swiper, I actually want to get your thoughts on this one. As a coach from OS, you've actually had some experiences with King and Destiny. What are your thoughts on their play currently for Cloud9?
I mean, yeah, these two especially have been playing for a long time. They've been around since like the beginning of League, pretty much. I think like they've always found a lot of success, like whichever teams they've been on. I think they've had like a couple of like missteps, like, you know, towards like the LCS opportunities. But whenever they're in Academy, they're like instantly shot up to be back at the top of the league. So I've been nothing but praise for these two. I think they're like very good players, especially.
And
I love hearing your input because, of course, you've seen more of their story than we have in Academy. We've had King and Destiny in NA for a little bit, but you've known even more about them in the past. Give me a quick history lesson. What's something that the viewer should know about how King and Destiny got started? You know, where their roots came from.
Yeah, I mean, they first came into action like pretty much, I would say 2017 was their big first year on Direwolves. They had like an undefeated split, like they dominated both splits, which like previously it was Chiefs that kind of like held that. But ever since then, they've been on a tear. Like even I think on 2019 they reunited again to play together, and same thing, they just dominated both splits. They had a rough first split, but second split they dominated again. So, no, I mean like they're always on top of the league. They're always working pretty hard, and yeah, I have a lot of respect for these two.
5 OPL championships for King.
Oh yeah.
That is kind of absurd if you think about it.
3 Worlds appearances, 2 MSI appearances. This guy is just trying to find his way back to the LCS, and it feels rough, right? I know when we were looking at Ayla, and the reason why he wasn't playing in LCS was because he was playing behind Core JJ. I feel very similarly about King. One of the biggest reasons he's not having more time on the LCS stage is because he's playing behind Berserker, who's been playing so well.
Or his Vent,
LCS
or other top caliber 80 carries throughout his career. But speaking of Swiper, you also have a little bit more experience, not just knowing their history, but even playing against some of these guys. I see a certain Aatrox
You're
up there
taking
on
it
the
from
screen.
the OPL Summer Dude, you don't gotta do the Armored Titan like that. What is this?
Yeah, I mean, this series wasn't close. You know, this was before everyone kind of went over to NA, these guys, so they really deserved a shot coming over after this tournament, because Chase were also a pretty good team at the time. So, I mean, yeah, like Fudge as well, like playing against this guy was enjoyable, you know, but it wasn't very, at the same time, it wasn't fun because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. But yeah, these guys were always like a hard team to face, for sure, so.
I love seeing those names together on a team. Fudge, Triple, King, Destiny, like mainstays now in North America. And it's like, yeah, they came from the same team, the same org. What was it like, you know, going into game days against them? Was it just like, oh god, we got to face off against Mammoth now?
Yeah, I mean, like in this year especially, practice and stage was always a really, really hard game against these guys, because it was kind of when they were getting into their like top form, I would say. Especially Fudge coming into this was his first year as well. So he came into action and just was already just contesting the top of the league straight away. So yeah, we had to plan pretty well to verse these guys, and it was hard. So when they went to NA, I was a bit happy, to be honest.
Remove some of the competition from the pool so others have the opportunity to shine. Thank you for the honesty there, Swiper. Appreciate it. But we also got to hear from Destiny himself. The reunion of Destiny and King was a big moment in this summer split. And there were some interesting stories that Destiny had to share. So let's take a look.
Me and King have a lot of stories. One that's familiar to me was in 2017 on Direwolves. He got cling wrapped around his chair and he couldn't leave the chair until he stopped dying to ganks. I think he was like playing solo queue, and he's like, I can't leave this chair until I play like a perfect game of solo queue. Until I not die, I can't leave this chair. And I have a picture of that. I think that's one of my funniest moments. There's also, on Mammoth, we had a box where he would just go in a cardboard box and we'd like lock him up if he entered as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of methods into King's improvement.
Rafa, we have to get that picture. We have to find that photo.
Yeah, you know, we'll have to make some contacts over in Melbourne or somewhere in Australia. It's like, hey, you got the juice, man. We need we need the content.
Yeah, that's what we're missing, especially if they make it to finals. If Cloud9 Academy win this and they make it to the finals in the LAN, then that's going to be like the intro for the team. It's not, you know, King's player picture. It's just a picture of him in wrapped to a chair. I think that's the way that we do it. There you go. We got the content all planned out.
I try to imagine how you could play, right? Because like if it's around your chest, like you can't lift your arms up all that high. You're just kind of you're playing it as like a T-Rex. You scoot up really close to your table.
Well, I don't think it's around the arms. I imagine it's like under the arm, like here. Right?
So
Swiper, did you see this? Swiper, do you have any like?
Yeah, I've seen the photo, and it's what you're explaining, Kongs. Yeah. So it's kind of like.
Oh, okay, it's under the arms. All right.
Yeah, but he's like pretty locked up into the chair. So I mean, it'll be a funny photo to show. Good luck
All right,
with that one.
Rafa, now for you and I in our Wild Rift solo queue, we're going to do that to each other. But we can go over the arm because you can play on your phone down in your lap or something. That'll be perfect. So that's intro for Cloud9 Academy for right now. But we want to highlight a player from Dignitas Academy as well that we don't – I don't think he's gotten enough credit this split. And I think that his journey has been fantastic to follow. And that is, of course, their support – JJ, who has actually been a rock for this team. And honestly, Joshi, I love watching JJ play in this summer split. He's been a treat.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to watch the story of JJ come through on the Dignitas Academy roster, because in spring, he was the one veteran that they had alongside 4 relative rookies, and now he's playing alongside 3 other players that have played LCS at the very least, right? You have Gamsu, Insanity, and Neo all coming down to play, and he only has 1 rookie surrounding him, and it allows him to level up his own play, right? We saw this with Insanity as well. As soon as they had fewer rookies that they were having to use so much bandwidth on to help them understand the game in the moment, it allows JJ's mechanical prowess to really start showing once again. And we always knew he was good. We're starting to see really why everybody was fearing this guy during his time in the LCS.
Okay, I love it. I love the fun fact, but you can't just say Peruvian fusion restaurant. What are you fusing it with?
Oh,
like,
fusion hot.
Polymerization, fusion.
Oh, hold up.
You need a second thing.
I can actually shed some light on this because there's a lot of common Peruvian fusion restaurants out in the United States and even in Canada as well. The most common one is a Japanese and Peruvian fusion cuisine, which is called Nikkei, because during the when a lot of the Asian immigrants were moving east and then eventually came around to the west, whether ending up in the United States or Canada, there's quite a number of them that came and found their way to Peru, and which is why we have one of the largest, if not the largest, Chinatown in South America, somewhere south of Lima. And that a lot of the kind of Chinese cuisine and Japanese cuisine started taking on fusion aspects of Peruvian food, because they would still cook traditionally, but they would use Peruvian ingredients. And because we're high up in the mountains, you get different qualities and calibers of produce and vegetables and fruits.
I love it. Rafa giving the geographical lessons as well.
It's super
with
delicious.
History. This is like incredible.
There's another cuisine for Chinese and Peruvian fusion. So Japanese and Peruvian is Nikkei, and Peruvian Chinese is called Chaufa.
Chaufa. All right, Rafa, next time I visit, you got to show it to me. But I got to continue us along in the conversation today, because there's one matchup in particular that we really want to highlight going into the day, especially considering their most recent performance. And that's the mid laners, baby. Copy versus Insanity had incredible series in their last semifinals in the upper bracket. And we got to give them some credit here, Joe. She also Copy with the moves, baby.
Yeah, I actually want to turn this over to Swiper, because when I was having a conversation with you about one of our other most valuable prospect candidates, I asked, what players do you think are already ready to see LCS play? And the first name out of your mouth, Swiper, was Insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I just see this guy, like, every time I watch Academy, he's always impacting the map or impacting, like, the game overall, like, so much. Like, he formulates his own leads. I wouldn't even say he gets, like, played around too heavily. So he's just, like, a rock for the team that gets them over the line a lot. I mean, in their last series as well, like, the Talia walls and just the shoves that he was doing, I was just very impressed with him, to be honest, Joe.
This play in particular, like, this is the one that I remember in my mind of Insanity just like hard carrying this fight. And it goes back to both of the players, Copy and Insanity, specifically the game 3s. They were the clutch players. That's something that we talk about sometimes. And as a coach, I'd actually also love your input on that. How much do you value like the clutch player on your team that you know in those high pressure situations like this, Insanity is going to do this?
Yeah. I mean, I always kind of just I use the term tech factor, but like you always need that one guy on the team, which like generally is mid or AD carry, I would say. And yeah, these two teams, like both I would say is the mid laner in the team fights. Like they just always find a way to step up and get the results. So as a coach, it's very refreshing to have someone like that on your team, because you know you can trust like in the late game.
I feel like Insanity is one of these players that has redeveloped his killer instinct that we were kind of missing during his time in the first half of the first round robin, right? He wasn't necessarily going for a lot of his own plays, but as Swiper has called out, he's generating his own leads now. He's looking for opportunities to get these solo kills when he wasn't really before, and it has allowed him to not only look for these opportunities, but make them happen too, right? You can't find solo kills if you're not looking for these opportunities to do it, and it feels as though Insanity has finally had another opportunity for this big moment of growth.
Yeah, and before we move on, I do want to touch quickly on Copy, because Copy was also someone that we don't give enough praise and respect to whenever he has those big highlight moments. In Game 3 in particular, something like a switch was turned on in Copy's brain. He just went into that and said, I am going to make sure we do not lose this series against AoE Ginger Turmeric. And we have seen so many times in the past where Cloud9, after a very tough loss, it's hard for them to recover, but this was a huge redemption arc for not only the team, but Copy in itself, because he is someone, ever since his Academy debut last year in 2021, has said, I no longer want to be known as the player that is a facilitator and making other players look good. I want to do that, but also have my highlight reel. I want other teams in the LCS know that I can carry them to victory.
It's good to have the reputation of being the clutch player in those best of series. And speaking of reputations, we actually had a chance to chat with Insanity about his reputation and what he thinks about that. So let's take a look.
The CC, the slows, the damn crowd control is too much for Bradley, and Dignitas stall it out and take the Baron.
I mean, obviously, I don't really know how many other people think about me, but I'm pretty sure everybody is just kind of the same line of thinking, like, I'm better than this guy, you know? But that just goes for everybody. That's just confidence, and that's kind of what you have to think going into things. And I wouldn't say my name is huge by any means, so it's not like they're nervous or anything playing against me. Like, I definitely don't think that that's the case. I think that I'm just way better because I played in LCS and have a lot of experience, and I put so much time into the game. I wanted to make Worlds, but I didn't really get the chance to try to. So Proving Grounds we'll have to do. Hopefully we can win. I have a lot of confidence going into this series and into whatever series we play after that. Whether we win or lose, either way, I think we'll still find a way to make it to finals. Nothing like bantery, honestly. Let's just have a fun game, honestly. I just want to have a banger. Whether it goes 5 games or 3 games, just let's duke it out.
How long that bleep was. That's a highlighted matchup. I don't think we should tell. But that's a highlighted matchup. Before we get into pick band, though, I want to go down the line. Rapid fire predictions. Who's taking it, Swiper? We're starting with you. Dignitas or Cloud9?
I'm gonna have to go with my boys in the ball lane. I think it's probably gonna be a 3-1 from C9. So that's my prediction.
Rafa?
Dignitas, 3-2, baby.
Joshi?
Cloud9, 3-2.
All right, I'm not going to give mine because I'm a coward. No, it's Dignitas. It's Dignitas, 3-2, baby. All right, 2-2 on the guys. We're split. Which mid laner has a bigger clutch factor, and which team will continue on into the upper bracket finals at LAN? Rafa, Joshi, take us away for game 1.
Bye, Steve.
It'll be my absolute pleasure, Kingus. Game 1 has arrived, ladies and gentlemen, but it's just the draft phase, so we're not quite on the rift yet. So
yeah, not yet.
Hold your horses, and if you want to go and grab a quick snack or a drink, now's the best time to do it, because by the time you get back, we'll be on the rift, more than likely. Josh, take me through some of the power picks that are already being eliminated here by both teams.
Well, we got to look at the fact that Copy's pool is already being targeted very heavily, right? The Talia is off the table. The Azir is off the table. These have been some of his most picked so far during the Academy season. And finally, yes, the Poppy's starting to receive a little bit of attention from Cloud9 as well. This is a huge difference maker for Dignitas last week when they went up against Team Liquid. And Perry just sitting there swinging his hammer, even though it took him about half the game to figure out how to play his champion. The second half, was able to take them all the way home. And now, Cloud9 and Dignitas, they're in the upper bracket finals, Mark. So on the one hand, stakes are a little bit lower. Both of them are already going to land. On the other hand, if you win, you don't have to play for an entire week after this, right? You have an opportunity to only focus on scrims and wait and see which player and which teams are actually going to be challenging you at finals, at the actual grand finals down in LA.
You practically have a 9-day break while scrimming, practicing, and watching the other teams play on stage in LCS next week. Now, Cloud9 Academy, after receiving the last ban from Dignitas, which is a Lucian, they realize no King, Destiny, Lucian, Nami bot lane is available, but a Nautilus priority pick is the response that they want to open the draft.
Bit surprising coming out from most teams, but not for Cloud9. This is something that has been fairly standard for them, and it will be matched likely by something fairly standard for the side of Dignitas. But we also have to focus in a little bit on Perry's champion pool, because as the rookie, Dignitas have put so much work into making sure that he's comfortable on the Rift. He's got a lot of Wukong bans, but outside of that, has most of them playing only the Volibear and the Xin Zhao. And now as the Wukong does get locked in, we're going to have to see whether or not this was a justified ban against him for basically everything else that we've seen coming out of Dignitas thus far.
By far his most played champion in Proving Grounds so far, and one of his most played throughout the Proving Grounds circuit qualifiers. Or not Proving Grounds circuit qualifiers, I'm thinking of...
just Proving Grounds.
Yeah, just Proving Grounds in general. Anyway, Perry... Our JJ getting the Braum locked in as well. Cloud9 Academy answering back with the Viego and the Victor combo. So already, Josh, we're seeing that Cloud9 have the ability to control battle lines very well just off of Copy's mid lane mage.
Yeah, it's a very standard setup from both rosters. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we saw Sivir come this far down the pick order, because on 12-15, I'm pretty convinced that it's the most powerful champion on the patch. But ends up going over to Neo, and Neo has been one of these players that has been very good at being very, what's the term? Expected value, right? He doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of pop-off moments, but he almost never has bad games either, right?
Consistent.
He will always be doing his job exactly, very consistent. And having the Sivir Braum, there's not a lot of bottom lanes that can really push this around, because between the spell shield and just the regular shield, they can kind of just leave anytime that Cloud9 wants to fight them.
Yeah, in their series against Team Liquid at Honda Academy last week, Neo just consistently outputting damage, ricochets. The rest of the Dignitas squad was creating the space necessary for Neo to be able to pick and choose whether he wanted to play towards the left side of the skirmish or the right side of the skirmish. And Neo having the movement speed to navigate through those battle lines as well.
There you go.
Okay, boom.
The longest 0 seconds I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, just two bans flying in back to forth. I like that the Draven being banned away from King, as Nautilus would have set up a very strong kill lane against Sivir and Braum in the early laning stages, and then with the Sejuani being taken away from Darshan, that opens up that Dignitas might want to blind pick Gamsu's pick to save something else for Insanity in the last phase.
I feel like this is probably a Gnar, honestly. And I know Swiper is a big Gnar player. I'm a big Gnar player. The Sejuani matchup recently, absolutely unplayable garbage. You cannot play Gnar into that lane whatsoever. And so we know that Gamsu has been one of these players that has had a bit more opportunities to look pretty good on the Proving Ground stage. Now, some of it has definitely been attributable to the fact that his opponents are not necessarily playing as cleanly as they could, but it's also, he's got like the opposite of what I call a fear aura, right? There's some players that you go up against, you're like, okay, God, can't mess up. We got to just go in and make sure that we don't make any mistakes. But Gamsu just looks really diveable for some reason. He's like, please, no, don't hurt me. And everyone's like, we're going to dive you. And he's like, oh, I'm actually Gnar, raging out on everyone. And so, as we see this start to come through once again, they're actually saving a last pick for him. And I feel like King is one of like 380 carries that's actually playing this Varus.
When Varus with the poke lethality build was super popular, I mean, King was probably one of our prominent most or our forerunners for picking Varus during that meta time as well. So King being able to flex back onto what is now, I understand, a attack speed oriented on hit Varus build. It's going to be the damage that they need from the backline. Gwen being blinded for Darshan. Now Gamsu, it's a couple options available here. We have seen Gamsu's champion pool being flexed around throughout Proving Grounds ever since him coming back to Dignitas Academy. The answers are galore here, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that you can play into the Gwen. This is a pretty good matchup historically for the Gnar, right? Gwen has oftentimes struggled to really play against Gnar, especially after he gets the first Hearthbound axe to come through, he gets those boots, and he just becomes too fast for a lot of Gwens to try and keep up with. But we are seeing from Cloud9 a very diverse roster. This roster can do a little bit of everything, and that's true the Dignitas side as well. They both have plenty of wave clear. The one thing that they're a little bit light on the Dignitas side is primary engage. We're really looking at the rookie Perry going to be trying to find these flank angles. He has to hop over walls to try and disrupt the backline. Otherwise, Varus and Victor, played by Copy and King, are going to be able to do plenty of damage and probably win the front-to-back team fight going up against Dignitas.
Yeah, and Wukong is not necessarily the tankiest character anymore after receiving some light nerfs to his durability in those fights off of his passive. You can no longer just face tank Chain of Corruptions and a Gravity Trap and a Chaos Storm while trying to brute force your way to get that Cyclone off. You're going to have to rely, like you said, on flank angles, trying to control those pockets of vision where Cloud9 can't see where you're coming from, and that's also going to be beneficial for Insanity and Gamsu, because these are champions that can't necessarily just brute force their way in through after, which points to me, Josh. I think Neo's going to have to be doing a lot of his own self-peeling work with JJ, but we're going to see how both of these compositions play out as we head to the Rift for Game 1 between Dignitas Academy and Team Liquid Honda Academy. Or not Team Liquid, Cloud9 Academy. I'm so caught up in last week, and you know what? Scrap the intro. Let's
start it over.
Let's do it.
Get back on the Rift
Josh.
again.
Josh, you want to do the intro? I've lost my privileges. Go for it.
Oh, no. All right, there we go. Thank you. I think it's Lord on our observers today. And as we get on to the Rift between Dignitas QuantumPay and Cloud9 Academy for Game 1, Mark, we're going to be running out onto the Rift. And wow, look at all those champions running up mid lane.
Yeah, we totally just started the game and not had to redo the intro there. Let's go! Yeah!
Also, shout out before we go too far, we have Lauren and VFly, also known as Victor, as our observers today. I believe it's Lauren on Obs 1 and Victor on Obs 2, so you know who to flame if one of the replays don't go the way you expect it to.
Minions
Maybe I had it backwards. One of them, you know, just at both of them on Twitter every single time you see a cool play go through, and they will both accept the praise, and they will both be mad at me for telling you to give the credit to the wrong one. Sound fair?
No.
No, it does not sound fair.
Damn.
All right, well, we'll figure it out. We'll talk to Joey about it a little bit later. But as we get into this game, remember, it is Cloud9 who should be the ones that have more expectations riding on this game than Dignitas do, right? Cloud9 came in, and this was a roster that was built to win Proving Ground entirely, whereas this Dignitas roster is designed to save money. Right? It's definitely a situation where, because they've been moving so many of their LCS and Academy players around, this is a roster that just kind of got thrown together at the last minute, and the fact that they are performing as well as they have is a testament to the players and the coach Deos and how well they've quickly come together.
Yeah, the fact that they were just taking the resources that they were kind of left with, and the fact that they've made it this far is attesting to the determination and the persistence of all 5 of these individuals, plus Deos and the rest of the coaching staff behind Dignitas Academy to make it this far. The farthest they have ever been for the history of this org, I want to say since, oh my goodness, I was looking it up before. I want to say like 2019 Academy season. They have not made a 3rd, 4th place finish ever since then. It's always been either you know, bottom 5. But this is a heavy invade. Shaden trying to take away the blue buff from Perry. I think this is going to reset between the aggro, the leash timer here. So everyone's going all in. Dredgeline finally connects onto JJ, but they get the first proc of Braum's passive onto Shaden. He's forced to flash away. Perry also getting ignited down. It's an all-out brawl. Copy is roamed over, but Insanity is over in the left wing of that back pocket. So in the end, Dignitas are able to secure their blue buff at the cost of, I guess, a couple summoner spells from Neo and JJ split and Shaden's flash.
And it looks like it's mostly even at the end of it, right? But Shaden lost so much time at the end of it. Also, King and Destiny, their way was pushing a little bit. They have few minions to come back and farm than Neo and JJ do when they go back into the bottom lane. So it's a lot of small advantages getting picked up by Dignitas that won't necessarily break immediately, but can be really impactful later on. Shaden is one of these players that I consistently look at as somebody who we know is one of the most mechanically gifted junglers in all of Academy and Amateur as well. It's only a question of time before he got picked up by an LCS Academy organization, but he's also a player where if he doesn't have opportunities to do well in the first couple of minutes, can oftentimes crumble. He's now down 2.5 camps. It's now on Shaden to kind of bounce back and all the veterans around him to try and get him back into the position that he wants to be, because if this Viego falls too far behind, Mark, you know it very well. It's not fun to play.
Yeah, as a Viego, you really thrive in forcing skirmishes so that you can start getting resets of champions and getting new uptimes on the cooldowns of the champions you start possessing. That is what makes Viego so frustrating to deal with as an enemy team, and so powerful when it is in your own hands. And on the flip side, for Perry on Wukong, you also skirmish well, but you're really all about making plays when you hit level 6, because that is the Cyclone. That is the big AoE knockup that guarantees at least burning flashes or getting a couple kills.
As people go back onto the Rift, we are seeing Shaden path towards the top side, ignoring the Gromp, ignoring the Wolves, directly going for this gank onto Gamsu. He just looks diveable, man.
Gamsu is about to turn Mega, so they would have to pull this dive off quick, or it's going to end in disaster. And Perry, reading the situation beautifully, is heading right there. Gamsu, he needs to get Mega, gets the hop out. Darshan looking for the killing blow, but Gamsu with the flash wallops him under the tower. Gamsu, I think they have enough damage to get Darshan down here. He doesn't have Gwoz quite yet. He's looking for the dash over the wall, but it's just nowhere in sight. First blood for Dignitas Academy.
Dude, submissive and diveable. Gamsu just has something about him, man. Everybody goes for these dives, and they turn it around again. The rage comes in at the perfect time, and Gamsu able to stay alive, as you called out. Perry doing a great job hovering this as well. But we look at the ramifications of how this goes. Shaden takes so many turret shots, he can't come back in. Darshan on the wrong side of the turret ends up going down, and more than the advantages I think it gives Dignitas, I think this really hurts Cloud9's top side of the map, right? Darshan is so focused on his laning phase, and it's a bad matchup, and he's behind. Shaden is so focused on the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes of the game. His 2 plays now have not worked out. I feel as though Cloud9 need to show the resiliency that they showed us at the beginning of Proving Grounds if they really want to bring this back, even though the lead isn't that large.
And you can tell that Shaden wanted that play to go so well, but the fact that he was forced to burn Flash in the previous invade they had on the blue buff jungle quadrant of Dignitas, it meant that he couldn't tank the turret as longer. And one more shot, and then he could easily flash out of the turret range to give Darshan a little bit extra time under the tower against Gamsu. And now that Shaden, down without a flash, down behind camps in terms of tempo, he is struggling to make an impact before Perry comes online with the Cyclone, because then that is where you feel that a Wukong will eclipse your power as Viego if the skirmishes are not going your way.
I want to give props to Darshan as well, though, because he has been able to set up a freeze because Gamsu took so long to actually get his backs off. He's just now teleporting in, but this is when you start looking at this matchup and it really starting to go in favor of Gamsu, right? Darshan has a small window right now where his ultimate is way better than Nar's ultimate for a little while. The slow will allow him to actually keep up because Gamsu has no flash, but there's so much movement speed. He's got the boost, he's got the Hearthbone Axe. Every single time he gets one of these auto attacks allows Gamsu to run away. And with this wave slowly crashing towards the top side, it puts Darshan in a really dangerous spot. He wasn't able to maintain the freeze. And Gamsu is Perry going to stick around? Okay, no, just kidding. Perry's not going to stick around, but this was a potential dangerous position for Darshan to be in.
Yeah, Perry recalling here, just looking for some item components. But Gamsu now in this matchup, I think it's safe enough that he can navigate out of any dive threats from Darshan if it's solo attempted, which now means for Cloud9, I imagine you want to shift the focus of where you're investing resources from Shaden's attention on the jungle towards protecting Copy, protecting King, making sure that these guys have their lane phases in check, because as now Sanity has eclipsed level 6 and is level 7, has the Spirit Rush available, one of the things that we always want to see from Ahri players is how well are they able to get out of lane and start using that Spirit Rush proactively to find leads for the map.
And Insanity has a small window to continue doing that, right? The big problem for Ahri players going up against Victor is as soon as Victor gets that first evolution, as soon as he gets 100 stacks, 1 per minion, 25 per takedown, he gets that evolution on his E, and it does double damage effectively to minions. And that allows him to clear waves incredibly quickly. And this is the small window that Dignitas are using, but Cloud9 bringing all 5 members to the party.
Yeah, but it's going to be a little late. Destiny was late to the party. JJ got here first. Perry just burns down the Rift Herald. If they can make their exit safely, then there's no play that Cloud9 can capitalize on. Gamsu goes Mega, slams Darshan against the wall. Cyclone right on top of it. Yes, there's a Chaos Storm from Copy, but he's still early on in the Victor laning phase, so he doesn't bring that much brute damage behind it. So Dignitas just walk away with both a Rift Herald and a kill.
Darshan's trying really hard to dig himself out of the hole he finds himself in, and it's going worse and worse. Dignitas able to punish him yet again. And the biggest thing about it, Neo never came to this play. He was able to sit down in the bottom lane, get so much push going at the same time. But the one thing we got to look at here is Darshan trying to make something happen, but his team is so far away. And even though they almost take down Insanity, it's still Ahri. Even though Insanity is not doing the damage he would like to, he still picks up the kill, he still has plenty of dashes, and he still heals every time he gets this takedown. He's able to find his way out of that, and Cloud9 walk away with nothing.
Yeah, Dignitas are showing an incredibly exemplarily early game. Not only just in waves their early game plans have been going down, but also the way they have responded. The early invade set up by Cloud9, Dignitas' bot lane and mid lane came over, defended Perry's jungle, making sure that the rookie did not get set far behind, and being the first ones to the Rift Herald play, ensuring that that objective was set up for themselves. There's still a dragon for them to both contest, but so far, with a 2,000 gold lead in the pockets of Dignitas Academy, they're currently the stronger ones on the map, and now I'm just wondering, Josh, you know, what do Cloud9 do from here on out? Do they want to wait out the game and stall out so that Copy and Darshan get a couple items in their lead and they can start really pairing up Dignitas? Or are they forced to start making plays before the game gets too snowballed by Dignitas?
I mean, the thing is, for Cloud9, they're going into a Dignitas roster that is spiking at this point in the game, right? Perry's almost got his item completed, got level 7. Insanity, level 8 as well, almost got his item completed. All of their champions are really coming into their own, where they have the base stats to actually go for fights, and Cloud9 can't afford to contest them right now. They really can't afford to try and take these 5-on-5s for either this dragon or probably the next one either. They're going to have to wait and get more items into Victor. They have to get more items into King, and oh wow, 2-item, 3-item Victor, 2-3 item bars to actually take control of some of these fights. Shade has to shift the way he's playing. He's not likely to be a carry the rest of the game.
Perry hovering Insanity at the moment, looking to see if there's a play. It's a flash out of Copy. Copy does not go down, saves his life, but now that's a flash burned on this Victor, knowing that Insanity and Perry both have their flashes and ultimates the next time they both show up in the mid lane.
That is a window right now coming through for Insanity and Perry. Now, we have been saying that Insanity has been a little bit quiet compared to what we were asking for, right? At the beginning of the day, I asked him over Twitter, like, hey, how hot do you think you're going to be looking today? And he said, you know, I was a little bit sad. He said, we'll see. Right? And so, you know, we will see how hot he's going to be looking today, because he's been looking absolute fire in the past couple of series that we've seen him come through. The first fight that we saw him interact with was like, okay, but no real play coming through him just quite yet, but he's got plenty of time left to go. They're taking a little bit more control of this bottom side of the river, and it also says, you said that when it's shading to start controlling the bottom half of the map a little bit more, we're also seeing the same plays come through from Dignitas. They want to get some wards down on the Raptors. They want to enable Insanity by giving him a little bit more money. And now he's got the Everfrost completed as well. The target that was painted on Copy's back is gotten even larger because you can only cleanse one of the charm in the Everfrost.
And while the Rift Herald in the mid lane doesn't take out the turret completely, we now know from the side of Dignitas, if they ever make a successful play in that vicinity, they can always take one wave to knock it out and now have better control of the map state. This time around, Dignitas going for a little bit of a payback invade, but Cloud9 dedicate all 4 members to defending the red buff for Shaden, making sure...
they divided 5. I'm serious, they devoted 5. They teleported Darshan down for that fight.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, he teleported down to the bottom lane turret. Remember, it's not unlocked just quite yet, and this makes Darshan's lane presence even worse. Gamsu is already up 30 CS. He's now picked up another turret plate. Dignitas, they see the teleport go down towards the bottom side, and they back up. That's the right play. You don't want to take these 4v5s right now. You want to use the fact that your composition is stronger in 5-on-5s. But the one place where it's not stronger, and it will basically never be stronger, is diving through choke points against a Victor, Mark. You don't ever want to do that. That is way too much control being given over to Cloud9. So instead, they push, they prod, they see where Cloud9 are going to give them these opportunities, and they don't overplay. But Gamsu could potentially kill Darshan here. Okay, just kidding. Gonna be backing away, but that's the kind of threat that he's currently under, right? Gamsu's got the Trinity Force completed. This is when Gnar is really at his strongest in this matchup, and you're already seeing Perry coming up to try and kill Darshan again.
They have a ward, but they know that Darshan put a ward in the bush as well, so Perry cannot make the approach quite yet. However, Gamsu flashing in, gets the wall, gets the Mega Gnar Cyclone right on top of it. Darshan can throw as many needles as he can, but he's not escaping out of that one.
And there you go. It feels super forced, right? Gamsu and Perry both commit flashes, both commit ults, but they kill Darshan again. That is 3 deaths coming out for potentially the most veteran player on either roster in this entire game. He's struggling at this point. Gamsu's taken over, and it really comes down. It comes back to the first dive that they tried to make happen against him, where Gamsu and Perry able to respond to it perfectly. It feels as though everything Dignitas could ask for is already going their way.
And I mean, you used to be a top lane main, now you're playing mid lane this season, but you you just saw Darshan burn teleport. I'll hold that point. Jaden going for a crazy invade, trying to flip it. They know that they're behind, and Jaden just wants to be able to fight something back. Perry doesn't have Cyclone after seeing the skirmish on the top side of the map, so Jaden might have a chance to yoink this away, but it's still in Perry's stead. Back to the top lane point. You just saw Darshan forced to teleport to the bottom side of the map. So if you burn both of your summoner spells and you force Darshan on the lane, I mean, that's a miserable laning state afterwards for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, he's already down a level, but look at this. I'm actually surprised that Dignitas are not going to be contesting this. They're a bit slow to the play. Instead, they're going to be picking up the mid lane turret, and so as the map opens up a little bit further, you know, Dignitas will be trading this. They are trading it for position on the upcoming Dragon as well. And Dignitas, they are taking control. They're resetting Insanity to make sure that they can be as strong as possible for the upcoming fight. And I don't think Cloud9 should actually try and take this fight. They are still not strong enough individually or as a team to try and interrupt Dignitas if Dignitas already have control. Now, if Cloud9 had gotten there first, it's an entirely different story, but another turret will fall here or go very low. Dignitas, they have total control over the way to get to the Dragon, and I want to look mid lane because King might die here to Insanity.
Yeah, he's got to be careful. He has both Summoner spells up, plus Chain of Corruptions, but if he steps out of position and does not dodge on that charm, it could be more damage than he would like it to be. And the rest of Dignitas, after cleaning up both the outer turrets of mid lane and bottom lane, they have complete control of this bottom side of the map. And I expect to see that within the next couple of minutes, we're going to see them forcing that vision line further and further into the parts of Cloud9's jungle.
Yeah, Dignitas, they're already picking this up, and this is the thing that we got to look at, right? And one of the things that has allowed Insanity and JJ, we've already talked about this a little bit, to really move to the next level. A conversation that we were having a lot in spring, Mark, was the teams that didn't feel as though they needed to put in as much work on their individual play and was able to skip that step and start talking about how to play the map as a team. And it definitely feels as though Dignitas is doing that. The one rookie that they have is Perry, and we pride Perry on being a player. The rare exception. He's a player that we think his brains and the way he thinks about the game is oftentimes better than his hands. And so they're able to look for all of these macro plays across the board every single time. They're able to kind of skip the step of how do we get our lane in on wave 3 and just say, no, get your wave in on 3 and then we're going to fight.
At this point, they have leveraged it so well. Only 3 kills, but it's a massive 4,000 gold lead. We have seen games where it's been bloody kills a storm, and it's only been like 1,000 gold lead. This just goes to show that Dignitas are clearly playing the map way better than Cloud9, and they are in full control. And I want to go back to the conversation we had about Cloud9. They can't take these fights. Well, how long are Cloud9 given in terms of time before they are forced to say, okay, guys, now we have to fight?
Legitimately, I don't think they can realistically take a fight until Dragon 4. And that feels really bad, right? Like, that is how far behind they are. They don't have a top lane that can really interact with the map. There are so many melee champions on Dignitas that can just stand in the middle of Gwen's circle and hit him. And so Dignitas, as they start looking for this opportunity, it really feels as though, you know, we were priding Copy on how well he had played up against, not Team Liquid, up against Captain Shrimps, and he just solo killed him like 3 times straight. We're not seeing that version of Copy just quite yet. I feel as though Insanity is another level of player compared to Captain Shrimps, but Copy's now the player. He has to live up, and he has to start looking for that highlight reel play, but he has to do it a little bit later. And Mark, as a Victor player myself, it's not easy to do that as Victor. Victor does not have a whole lot of highlight plays that he can make anymore.
What, you don't miss the days of the Flash, Q, Laser, auto attack, empowered Lichbane days? I guess we're no longer living in that era, but you know, for Copy, it's all about how well C9 can force Dignitas to approach them through choke points, right? That is going to be your best bet. If it's out in an open field where you can get attacked by multiple angles, this is a choke point right here. They lock down Perry, and they are all ending everything onto Dignitas Academy while they have another's advantage.
Shaden.
It's one reset on the Perry, but Shaden doesn't get the reset off. Insanity cleans up, and look how Insanity waits for King to approach before making a re-entrance. That burns both summoner spells off of King. No Chain of Corruption, so he cannot follow up the fight from short range. It has to be long range with those piercing arrows. Gamsu already being able to deal with Darshan with Neo's help in the backline, and Gamsu's last auto attack gets the last hyper block, taking out Destiny, King, and Copy. Now on the run here, Gamsu tries to chase through. The gravity zone is going to slow his deter, but Dignitas, once again, despite what seemed like it was Cloud9's fight to take, Dignitas cleaned it up afterwards.
It was the perfect setup for Cloud9, right? You have multiple members coming through. They sit in Gravity Field. They sit in the Chaos Storm. And it's not enough. Exactly, right? We need to see the damage coming through from Victor. He's got the Leandries. He doesn't have the Zonias coming through. He doesn't have the Shadow Flame. He doesn't have the Rabadons ready. He doesn't have the damage yet. And that's what we saw coming through from Cloud9. It took Shaden and Darshan both picking up targets on the sides in order to make that play even look okay, right? It ends up being a 2 for 3. They don't get anything out of it, right? They only get a shutdown perhaps on JJ, maybe a small one on Perry as well, but they lose more and more control. And as you see the vision line, you called it out, Dignitas are pushing it forward, and now Dignitas, whoa.
Oh no, Darshan! No needlework, no ghost, no teleport. No way he's getting out alive on this one, and Cloud9 don't have enough time to respond to make even a Hail Mary attempt at Baron. And with the Dragon coming up, I don't know if we're getting a replay of the prior fight at this point. Insanity, being able to burn both the summoner spells off of King is now going to have massive ramifications on how Cloud9, if they wanted to contest the Dragon, at the next one.
Yeah, okay, we do get a replay of the fight. You were given almost a bit of a jinx, but look at how well Coffee gets positioned in this fight. The Gravity Well gets so much control, and then the Chaos Storm, it stays on JJ and the rest of the team for a long time. They're able to hold members in one position for so long. The Chaos Storm easily doing 2,000 damage by itself in that fight. But then after that, we also get to see, how much speed Gamsu and Neo actually have. Remember, Gamsu's got a ton of movement speed every time he gets an auto attack down, and a clutch spell shield coming out from Neo at the very end keeps him alive when he might have gone down.
And Darshan just trying to pour everything into taking out the backline, but because Darshan had been put into the dirt for the first few minutes of the game, he's not hitting the spikes that he would have normally have been hitting as a Gwen at this stage. And this now leads into the fact that a third Dragon is going to be uncontested by Cloud9, as you suggested, Josh, for them, which means the Ocean Soul will be available to Dignitas at around 26 minutes, where Cloud9 will be forced to fight them, whether they like it or not.
Exactly, and that's where they really have to hope that they get at least 2 items by that point. But look at the items that are already coming out from Dignitas. Most of them are already on 2 items already. It feels as though it is an incredibly desperate situation, and so maybe Copy can really rally the troops around him. One of the things I always like looking at, Mark, when we get these 5 situations is you figure out who's strong on your team, and they take the reins. Now, for most of the players on this team, for Darshan, King, and Destiny, they are veterans. They know how to do that. They know how to be like, no, you're playing around me. Copy, we're told, has also made a huge leap in his ability to play like this fairly recently as well. And he's realistically the one that needs to do that in this situation. He needs to rally the troops around him and try and find some different way to actually win this. And I feel, almost looking at this, Mark, that this game is mostly out of Cloud9's hands. It's mostly on Dignitas to kind of make a mistake and give Cloud9 a way back in. I actually liked Cloud9's plan for most of this game. Right, they went in for the invade up against Perry at the blue buff because they got the push. It just didn't quite work out. They went for the dive going into Gamsu on the top side of the map, and it was pretty close, but it was a little bit of a botched execution. It's now going to be on Cloud9 to try and figure out, did we just mess up, or do we have to go back to the drawing board?
Thankfully for Cloud9, it is a best of 5, so we're no longer in the best of 3 stages where it's only 1 game to make those adaptations. You have a 2-game buffer now before it is too late. As Dignitas working to lay down the vision line in the top side of Cloud9's jungle, getting ready to put Cloud9 to the ultimate challenge of, are you going to contest us at Baron, or are you going to give this objective for free?
Trying to decide how much threat Dignitas actually have on this Baron, right? Like, they do have Sivir, they do have Ahri, and so it's kind of like an average threat, I'd say, in terms of like how well their composition will do. But I also feel, looking at this, that this is the kind of situation where I would expect Neo to call it like, yes, we have the damage to actually try and make this happen. But Neo's also a relatively quiet player. I feel as though when we look at the way he plays, he will generally be like this, like, we could hit Baron, but I want the Raptors. We could go for that, but I'm Sivir. I only have 2 items right now.
It's not my 6-item wake up,
Can we pencil it in for like 3 minutes from now?
there's nothing ever wrong with stalling the game out as Sivir and just getting maximum item completion. But for Dignitas, who have Cloud9 on a bit of a timer, it would make sense for them to start pushing the accelerator and... Whoa. Perry is looping on around.
That was a big commit, and now here comes the counter engage.
And they can punish it here. Perry still has flash. Teleport from Darshan. He's ghosted. Destiny flashing over the wall. Finds JJ, but JJ flashes away from the rest of the group, so no one gets knocked up by the depth charge. That's one engage tool already gone. Darshan's ghost runs out of time, and Cloud9 trying to punish Dignitas overextending their jungle, but get nothing from it.
That was a tough fight, even if they had managed to find the engage, right? Neo on the Sivir, even though he's only on 2 items, he still does so much damage to people grouped up in a single choke point, running at him all together. So I almost wonder if Cloud9 could have even taken that fight. Dignitas believed them. Dignitas don't need to take these risks right now, and instead, Sandy's going to have more of a time to farm. Now, Dignitas have slowed down, Mark, in terms of the way that they are trying to play, and this is one of the things that we've been looking at with the team. While they have had great plans early on in the game, they have slowed down in the mid game a little bit as they kind of wait to push their individual advantages. In most games, that's not necessarily exactly how you want to play, but in this game, it's great. You look at Gamsu, he just had a Flame Horizon before Darshan cleared out this last wave. You look at Sivir, he's still scaling up, and JJ's not upset. I mean, Wukong is a little bit sad the later the game goes, but it's not as though he falls off a cliff, and Sanity will always be able to present damage threat towards the back line. So Dignitas, they just want to make sure that they pick their own fights, they don't want to take risks that they don't need to, and it feels as though that's a lot of veterancy coming through, saying we don't want to take opportunities that we don't have to.
I want to quickly look at the gold, because off of that last wave, I don't know if Darshan he does not have enough to finish Void Step. So this is now going into an Ocean Soul fight where Dignitas not only have massive item advantages over certain lane opponents, but also where Cloud9 don't have 2 item spikes on all of their main carries. So this is going to be a very lopsided fight in terms of wallet strengths. And I mean, the wallet diffs are going to be apparent in this fight unless Cloud9 find a very creative angle. But look at this! Because Cloud9 are forced to take the Ocean Soul away, Dignitas say, screw the dragon, we don't need it. We're going to get advantages through the top and the mid lane, pressure the base, and they might just be able to get away with at least 1 inhibitor tower going down.
This is one of your favorite plays for sure. You call this more than anybody else I know. Screw the dragon, let's go get the mid lane. We have Fry on this is why it's so dangerous to not have those mid lane turrets standing. And here we go, Copy getting damage.
JJ is going to get caught out here. That was a huge burst of damage from both Copy and King, being able to punish on the fact that JJ's flash was down from the previous fight. Shaden is still on the right track for looking for a flank, but he is just a Viego. All he has is that Spectral Maul, and that is not enough CC to lock someone down.
Cloud9, they do get 1. They have a bit more control. Copy again stepping up, bursting through JJ's HP bar, and he's already got most of the Shadow Flame completed as well, but they lost 3 turrets on that play. That's so much map control, and I feel as though Cloud9, they don't have time anymore to even go for this Baron. They have to try and wait for Dignitas to make the same play again, and so now it's on Dignitas. Do they want to wait another 4 minutes to make the same play happen again?
Perhaps. And it feels bad for Cloud9 because in this position, they could have maybe tried to bait Dignitas into the Baron. A 5-man advantage versus 4, where you could have wiped them with Chain of Corruptions and Chaos Storm. But they used it to take out JJ when they were pushing the inhibitor, so they have no real threat to bait Dignitas in. So it's just a handshake at that point. Everyone is getting their resets in. This does buy time for Cloud9 to get most of their 2-item power spikes now on their carries. So now both Copy and Darshan very strong at this point. King also very strong. Shaden is going to try to do his best, but because he is Viego, he can always reset on some of the strongest members from Dignitas.
True, that is something that Shaden can do. He's been looking for a couple of opportunities to come through, but now Dignitas, they're going to be the ones hitting the Baron, and Sandy off on the side, and Gamsu has his teleport up and available. Just back away.
JK. That was, you know, it looked a little funky there, because Gamsu was not quite in position, so walking from base. And at this point, Dignitas, if they wanted to really force them to come to the Baron, oh, wait. Insanity could be looking for a pick here, but Copy spotting it out, knows that Dignitas was looking for the rotation, just pushing this wave in. I mean, they could probably just do this dance for the next 2 minutes before they set up vision control back for Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my... We looked at your favorite call where you just push mid. This is one of my favorite calls. Like, yeah, just hit it. Force them to come into us, and then we'll go fight them. right? Those are brave men beyond those walls. Let's go kill them. And so Dignitas, oh, there we go. We got our House of the Dragon win as well. I know Cubby was doing it all last week. This time it's my turn. But it's so difficult now for Cloud9 to actually try and get anything done yet again. And as I start looking at this, I think they have one final fight. So while we wait for Dignitas to try and set that up, I kind of want to look at how Dignitas are likely to expand during the rest of this series, right? Because it is a position where I feel as though the player that is, again, most attackable is still Gamsu, right? Even though we've made this whole game about how he just looks so diveable, it's one of those things where if you come in with a third person and we know Copy's able to do this, you can easily find a lot of these ways to get the dive going. But Arshan,
has
that's
Ghost.
5 people.
Pops the Nos, speeds away. That's a valuable Summoner Spell going down. 2 minutes away from Ocean Soul once again that Dignitas can threaten. Destiny trying to take that moment to look for vision control right on back, but Dignitas wrestling it away. And if you toggle with the Fog of War, I bet you will see absolutely pitch black for the side of Cloud9's bottom jungle. You cannot walk in with safety.
Can't walk in. You try and tell me you want to face check an Ahri. I mean, in real life maybe, but not in the game. You die. You also die in real life, but that's an entirely different story. But Dignitas...
You know, there are worse ways to die. I'll put it that way. But for Dignitas,
yeah, it could
they
be
have... debatable. Dignitas.
But for Dignitas...
Yeah, Dignitas. A minute away from... once again, being able to fight for Ocean Soul, Insanity already setting up the top wave to crash into the inhibitor tower on the top side of the map, which is going to put just a subtle layer of pressure for Cloud9 to deal with if they dance around this objective for far too long. Insanity can take his time. He has teleport to join the fight, but Cloud9 taking necessary measures to push through the mid wave first so that they can get first rotation into the river and around the Dragon Pit.
This is what Cloud9 needs to do to have any sense of a chance at all in this upcoming fight, but they have to remember the play that Dignitas just went, right? They said, we don't care about the Ocean Soul. Instead, we can go hit the mid lane. We can instead go hit the Baron, and so far, Dignitas, they're threatening, and so Cloud9 have been pulled away from the Dragon. Now, where is Insanity going to teleport? He's waiting in base still. Okay, just mid lane. Alright, fine. It's a good teleport spot.
It's a safe teleport spot. And Gamsu has Mega ready. So now for the next 10 seconds, Cloud9 cannot enter to this choke point unless they want to get thrown into the wall. Ocean Soul has been started up by Dignitas. Cloud9 filing in through the bottom choke point of this Dragon River entrance. Parry on Vision. Shaden would have to steal it away, but there is no contest available whatsoever. Dignitas are able to secure the Ocean Soul for them, and now they turn their eyes toward the Baron, where Cloud9, this could be their last fight.
And by forcing Cloud9 to the bottom side of the map, Dignitas has position on the Baron as well. And so, they still have almost everything. Face check.
Oh, even in the Herald path, Shaden is caught out by Insanity's charm. And the rest of Dignitas know, without the jungler Cloud9, they can just steamroll on ahead. They will take all their resources, all their power, as Gamsu finds a two-man Gnar, throws Cloud9 into the wall, and make the entrance, make the grand enter into the base for Dignitas' victory in Game 1.
So far, Dignitas, they're silencing a lot of doubters, right? They took down Team Liquid Honda, they're taking down Cloud9 Academy. They're on a warpath mark, and even though it's only Game 1, they still need to win 2 more. This Dignitas squad is looking fantastic.
That was so damn solid and so good. That's not even justice for the words that I want to use. Dignitas, after the invade, seemed to have complete control of the game, and Cloud9 were just completely panicking every single time. Once that invade was botched, it seemed like Shaden wanted to just force plays and say, oh, I'm so far behind, guys. I need to do something. And that top lane dive, because it doesn't work out, whether Parry was in the right place at the right time or actively knew that, hey, he is going to make this play because this wave was stacked up, I just, Dignitas, you can tell the experience difference where JJ and Sanity, now being joined by, members like Gamsu and Neo who have experience, can talk through and know their limits, whether to push forward or back off as Cloud9 overmax their resources on a play.
And before we throw to a quick break, we do know that Cloud9, they've collapsed like this before. We saw it going up against AoE Ginger Turmeric. And you know what happened immediately after that? Copy got
They
mad.
smashed. Mhm. They smashed.
So we'll see what happens. We've seen both the Cloud9 that's slumping and the Cloud9 that's dominating in the same series. We'll see which version of the beast comes in next time.
On EGP2, it was a stage nervousness was all a thing. I mean, Peter Dunn said it, but growing up is how sometimes it feels better. Like dying once doesn't really matter. You could still win the game. Dying twice, looking bad, losing a whole game, it's okay. Like it's not the end of the world. I think on EGP I really struggled with that. So if I was up 10k gold and I died, I kind of would just collapse. If I was down 10k gold and I died, it'd be even worse. So I think with time, with understanding what I'm really trying to do here, what I really want, I finally got out of that constant anxiety, constant fear of playing on stage. I mean, throughout all Proving Grounds, I've had to go and fight my mental like a lot. I had to understand like where I'm at, my expectations for myself, other people's expectations. A lot of these things, like my biggest stressor was myself. So coming into the TL match, I like the weeks before, whatever, like the days before, sorry, I was putting a lot of the pressure on myself. Like no one else, it was me. Towards the end, towards like the second day or like the day before the TL match, I started realizing, I know this is the first seed. I know it's Armeo. I know he's been playing for 8 years, however long he's been playing. He's the best jungler, this and that. Like all these thoughts in my head, I just said, it's all good. Just play my best, play my game. And that really helped me kind of play better than I would have, I think. Because even in those matches, I was very shaky. I was very nervous. I was very, like, the anxiety started hitting third game. I was, like, doing crazy things. Like, I was feeling really pressured. But if I didn't calm myself, I guess, the days before, it would have been way worse. I think C9 is not that scary. I think we can definitely take them down. I think that I might have a little mental block against Shaden because I've admired him since like the start of the season in a way, like sort of like scouting grounds even like all the way back then. I don't know. He's always been someone I kind of looked up to, like as such a Chad jungler, like such a cool guy, like Graves, this and that. So in like scrims and whatnot, I would kind of like lose the fights because I wanted to kill him so badly, things like that. But I think if I tell myself all these things, I have a lot of mental preparation I can do. If I do that, I think at least we'll have a really good game, and I think we can definitely crush them. It's gonna like I'm looking forward to playing against him on a stage. We have never played against on stage. We've scrimmed. I think that he underestimates me a lot, and I want him to really understand that I'm not that shit of a player. Like I feel like he really disrespects me and disregards how much I've grinded. So I want to show him otherwise.